It was Christmas Eve down in Miller's garage. I was hiding from the in-laws in my little lodge. I had grease on my hands and a radio on, waiting for the holy night to come and dawn. Then I heard a loud crash on the gravel drive. Sounded like a rig that wasn't alive. Steam was blowing and the middle was hot. Something landed squarely in my parking spot. I wiped off my goggles and I took a peek. I saw 9 reindeer looking mild and meek, but the guy in the driver's seat was turning red. He kicked the dashboard and here's what he said: "This wooden contraption is a piece of junk. I hit a heavy cloud with a terrible clunk. The runners are bent and the wood is split. I think the transmission has finally quit." It was Santa Claus in a leather vest, putting my mechanic skills to the test. He said, "I got kids waiting in Tennessee, and this heap of timber is failing me." I said, "Listen here, Santa, don't you panic. You're talking to the county's #1 mechanic. We can't fix the wood, it takes too long, but I got an engine that is built real strong." I pointed to the corner at a crate of steel. I said, "Big block Chevy is the real deal. We'll ditch the runners and we'll add some wheels and see how 1,000 horsepower feels. It's a hot rod Christmas, grease and chrome. We're gonna get the big man safely home with a dual exhaust and a 4-barrel car. We're trading in the magic for the hot rod guard. Rev it up." Santa grabbed a wrench and he rolled up his sleeve. He said, "Let's get it done before I have to leave." We bolted that motor to the sleigh's front end, making modifications that would never bend. We welded on pipes that shot out fire. We wired up the plugs with a copper wire. Rudolph was looking a little confused, but the other 8 reindeer looked quite amused. I poured in the gas and I checked the oil. My blood was starting to bubble and boil. Santa jumped in and he turned the key. The engine roared like an angry bee. The garage shook hard and the lights flickered dim. Santa was smiling on a chaotic whim. He put on his shades and he shifted to first, ready for a speed and a power burst. He tossed me a present wrapped in gold. He said, "Thanks for the fix if I may be bold. This thing is louder than a jet plane scream. It's every hot rodder's Christmas dream." Now if you hear a rumble on your roof tonight and you see a flash of a blinding light, it ain't just magic making him quick. It's a V8 engine pushing St. Nick. It's a hot rod Christmas, grease and chrome. We're gonna get the big man safely home with a dual exhaust and a 4-barrel car. We're trading in the magic for the hot rod guard. Rev it up. Watch out for the speed trap on Route 9, Santa.
I went down to the lot on the edge of town with $19 and a frown. The wife said, "Get a small one, maybe 3 feet high," but a monster spruce caught my wandering eye. It was 12 feet tall and 5 feet wide, the kind of tree where a bear could hide. I dragged it to the counter and I paid the man, ignoring the flaw in my transport plan. I backed up the Buick, the family sedan. I felt like a conqueror, a genuine man. The boy at the lot said, "That ain't gonna hold." I said, "Listen here, son, do as you're told." We heaved it up on the metal roof and crushed the rack like a giant's hoof. I grabbed some twine and a rusty chain, tying knots in the freezing rain. I used a granny knot and a bowline hitch. My fingers were frozen in a nervous twitch. I slapped the trunk and I gave it a pat, said, "That ain't going nowhere," and that is that. I pulled onto the highway, lane #1, thinking the hard part was over and done. But then I hit 40 and I felt a shake, a rumble that caused the steering to quake. The wind got under the branches green, creating a lift like a flying machine. The front tires lifted off the asphalt track. I was doing a wheelie in a Pontiac. It's a Douglas fir fiasco, hold on tight. We're sailing down the highway on a silent night, with sap on the windshield and fear in my eyes. I bought a tree that was twice my size. Whoa, Nelly! Cars were honking as they passed me by. A trucker gave a wave and a heavy sigh. I saw needles flying like a storm of green, the biggest mess that the road has seen. I hit 55 and the twine gave way. The trunk swung left in a violent sway. It slapped the window of a passing Ford while I was praying to the holiday Lord. I reached my hand out the window glass, grabbed a branch as I hit the gas, holding that tree with a grip of steel, driving one-handed at the steering wheel. My arm was freezing, my shoulder was sore. We were only a mile from my own front door. The tree was screaming like a banshee ghost, rubbing the paint off the driver's post. I turned into the driveway on two side wheels, with screeching rubber and automobile squeals. I hit the brakes and the tree kept going right through the garage without even slowing. I think I parked it. I got out the car and looked at the prize. It was missing its needles and half its size. It looked like a skeleton made of wood, but I tied it up the best I could. My wife came out and she shook her head. "You bought a stick," is what she said. I smiled and said as I rubbed my arm, "It's got a minimalist modern charm." It's a Douglas fir fiasco, hold on tight. We're sailing down the highway on a silent night, with sap on the windshield and fear in my eyes. I bought a tree that was twice my size. Whoa, Nelly! Hey, pass me the vacuum. I think there's pine needles in my ears. The clock struck 12 on the living room wall. The house was silent, dark and small. The kids were sleeping in the beds upstairs while I was facing my mechanical fears. I dragged the box from the closet floor. It weighed about a ton and a little bit more. A brand new bike painted candy red. It's easy assembly is what the box said. I poured a coffee and I rolled up my sleeves. I said, "I'm the master of these Christmas Eves." I cut the tape with a pocket knife, ready for the battle of my handyman life. I dumped the parts on the Persian rug, a chain, a pedal, and a metal plug, 1,000 washers and a million screws. I felt the onset of assembly blues. I found the paper with the plan inside. I opened it up and I nearly cried. It was written in German and translated to Greek. I knew right then I was up the creek. Diagram one showed a simple wheel, but mine looked more like a twisted eel. I tried to force it with a heavy twist, and I banged my knuckle with a clenched up fist. I grabbed the wrench that was size too small. I threw it hard against the hallway wall. The dog woke up and gave a little bark. I hissed like a snake in the holiday dark. It's the midnight bicycle build, I'm losing my mind. I got a handlebar loose and a brake line blind. With a hex key wrench and a prayer to the sky, I'm building this bike or I'm gonna die. Turn it right. Came rolling around. I was laying flat on the hard cold ground, holding a nut with my teeth and tongue, feeling like my nerves were tightly strung. I got the seat on, but it faced the side. I said it's a feature for a custom ride. The chain was hanging like a necklace chain. I was questioning the size of my very own brain. I looked at the back 6 big bolts left in the sack, and I had no idea where they went in the back. I swept them under the sofa chair. I said, nobody's ever gonna know they're there. Extra parts just mean efficient design. I convinced myself that it was working fine. The sun was creeping on the windowsill. I was sweating buckets and I felt the chill. I tightened the last screw with a mighty grunt and performed a desperate mechanical stunt. Does that look straight to you? Close enough. The kids came running at the crack of dawn, scanning the room with a happy yawn. They saw the bike and they screamed with glee, ignoring the wobble in the left side knee. My son hopped on and he rode it fast. I held my breath hoping it would last. It squeaked and rattled but it stayed in one piece, and finally gave my poor heart some release. It's a midnight bicycle build, I'm losing my mind. I got a handlebar loose and a brake line blind. With a hex key wrench and a prayer to the sky, I'm building this bike or I'm gonna die. Turn it right. Don't worry, I can fix that. Where's the duct tape?
My wife bought a bird that weighed 22 pounds. She said, put it in the oven so it cooks nice and brown. But I shook my head with a look of disdain. I said, oven roasting is a little too plain. I went to the store and I bought a machine, the biggest fryer that the world's ever seen. It ran on propane and a prayer to the Lord. I dragged it home in the back of the Ford. I set it up squarely on the driveway concrete, away from the house to manage the heat. I poured in the oil about 5 gallons high, ready to make the big turkey fly. The neighbors were watching from behind their fence, wondering if I had lost all my sense. I put on my apron and a welding mask too. I looked like a pilot in a B-52. The thermometer climbed to 350 degrees. I felt a slight tremble in both of my knees. The bird was waiting on the patio table. I grabbed the hook and the heavy steel cable. Now here's the part where the math comes in play, a lesson I missed back in high school day. If the bird is too big and the oil is too high, you're gonna light up the December sky. And I didn't count for the ice inside, where the cold and the frost had decided to hide. I lowered it down with a comforting grin, and that's when the chaos began to begin.
It's a deep fried turkey fireball, call 911. My culinary battle has only begun. With a whoosh and a bang and a pillar of flame, I'm putting the 4th of July to shame. Burn, baby, burn. The oil displaced and it spilled on the flame, creating a fire that I couldn't tame. It shot up the side of the garage door wall. I stumbled back and I took a hard fall. The bird was ejected like a rocket in flight, shooting across the lawn in the night. It landed smoking in the flower bed, black as a tire and heavy as lead. My eyebrows were singed and my apron was toast. I was the host with the dangerous roast. My wife ran out screaming, what have you done? I said, we're just having a little bit of fun. Then came the sirens wailing and loud, drawing a cheer from the neighborhood crowd. The fire chief jumped off the big red truck, shaking his head at my terrible luck. He hosed down the driveway and foamed up the pot, everything steaming and smoking and hot. He looked at the bird in the rose garden dirt and asked if anybody had gotten hurt. Whoosh! I like it crispy. That's flavor. We sat at the table in the smoke-filled room, eating the dinner of impending doom. The turkey was ruined, a charcoal brick. One little bite made the dog feel sick. So we ordered a pizza with pepperoni on top and promised the cooking was gonna stop. I raised a slice and I said with a cheer, I'll get it right when we do it next year. It's a deep-fried turkey fireball, call 911. My culinary battle has only begun. And a bang and a pillar of flame, I'm putting the 4th of July to shame. Burn, baby, burn.
Does insurance cover stupidity? Asking for a friend. My culinary battle has only begun. With a whoosh and a bang and a pillar of flame, I'm putting the 4th of July to shame. Burn, baby, burn. Does insurance cover stupidity? Asking for a friend.
Hold the ladder steady, honey, I'm going for the chimney. The wife looked up at the roof so high, underneath the gray and the cloudy sky. She said the chimney looks a little bare. We need a plastic Santa sitting up there. I went to the shed and I grabbed the mold, a 5-foot snick painted red and gold. He was hollow inside and weighed 10 pounds, the cheapest decoration that could be found. I grabbed the ladder from the garage wall. It was 20 feet up and risking a fall, but I put on my boots with the rubber sole, ready to accomplish my holiday goal. I tied the Santa to my belt loops tight, looking like a fool in the fading light. I started the climb with a confident step, fueled by coffee and a whole lot of pep. I reached the gutter and I swung my leg, balanced like a bird on a wooden peg. The shingles were covered in a sheet of ice. I should have listened to my wife's advice. I unhooked the Santa and I stood him up. I was shaking like a leaf or a nervous pup. I nailed his boot to the chimney brick, hoping that the glue was gonna stick. But the wind came howling from the icy north, showing me exactly what a gale is worth. It hit that Santa like a plastic sail, and that's when my balance began to fail. It's a plastic Santa slide, look out below. I'm surfing down the shingles on the ice and snow. I got a reindeer on my left and a wreath on my right. I'm the fastest thing moving on a Christmas night. Go! Cat, go, go! My boots lost traction on the frozen slate. I was sliding down toward a terrible fate. I grabbed for the chimney, but I missed the stone. I was heading for the edge on my very own. The plastic Santa ripped out of the wood. He was sliding with me just as fast as he could. We were side by side in a rooftop race, with a look of terror on my frozen face. I passed the bathroom window in a blur, startling the cat, making him purr. I tried to dig my heels in the grit and sand, but gravity was making a heavy demand. I hit the gutter with a mighty crash. It bent like a spoon in a potato mash. I hung there dangling by a single hand above the holly bushes in the garden land. The Santa flew over and he didn't stop. He landed on the Buick with a belly flop. He bounced off the hood and into the street, while I was swinging by my dangling feet. Hey! Honey, put down the camera and get a mattress. The gutter gave way with a metal groan. I dropped like a rock or a heavy stone. I landed in the bush with a prickly scratch, right in the middle of the berry patch. I laid there staring at the winter stars, nursing my bruises and my mental scars. The wife yelled out, "Did you get him straight?" I said, "He's in the driveway by the garden gate." It's a plastic Santa slide, look out below. I'm surfing down the shingles on the ice and snow. I got a reindeer on my left and a wreath on my right. I'm the fastest thing moving on a Christmas night. Go! Cat, go, go!
Next year, we're using stickers. Just stickers.